My dad tried to off himself last night. I got a call from my mom this morning while I was at work. Her voice was small, and I knew by the way she was speaking something was wrong. She has never been good about giving people bad news, and when she has something important to say, she dances around the point. Eventually, she says to me that she had to send my dad to the hospital. At first, I assumed it was a heart attack, but she told me that when she woke up, she found him with a zip tie tightened around his neck, one of the industrial ones. He was still conscious, and she said what woke her up was the noises he was making. She didn't know what to do or how to get the zip tie off his neck, so she called 911 and ran to the neighbor's CP house for help. They were able to remove the zip. CP is ex-military and has been a good friend of the family for a while. He was able to calm the situation and talk to Dad, and when the cops got there, he helped to convince him to go to the hospital voluntarily rather than involuntarily. I wasn't upset about Dad. My main concern was my mom. I stopped what I was doing at work. I informed my boss of the situation. They said I could leave immediately, but I decided to stay to finish what I was doing, but did leave early. I went home to get my wife and kids so we could sit with Mom at her house. My brother drove down with his wife and kid, 2-hour drive, to be with her as well. My dad is an alcoholic and has dealt with issues like this for as long as I can remember. Growing up, it wasn't uncommon to see him in a babbling mess trying to give away all his stuff or hugging us goodbye. One day I woke up to him screaming and hitting himself and watched him take a 30-30 outside with him and put it in his mouth. When I was 16, he tried to convince me to off myself. And on more than one occasion, we attempted to have him involuntarily committed, but he always had a way of talking himself out of it. I thought this time was different and the hospital would keep him, but I was wrong. He called my mom and said, "Come pick me up and bring my tobacco." My brother decided he was going to go pick him up, and I convinced my brother to let me go with him. I couldn't let him go alone because I knew my dad would try to find a way to blame it on him or be hostile if it was just my brother by himself. When we got close to the hospital, he was walking. The first few minutes of the ride after he got in the car was quiet, but my brother started talking. And I've got to say, I'm really proud of my brother. He has struggled with addiction in and out of rehab, the whole 9 yards. But he's been clean for a while now and working on himself. Ivy never seen my brother doing well, and he has never handled stressful situations in a good way. He handled this the best I've ever seen him handle anything. We stopped at a taco truck to get my dad some tacos, and Dad and I got to talk, just me and him, for a minute. I told him that I wasn't mad or sad about the situation. I told him that whether he off himself, had a heart attack, or got hit by a truck, one day he was going to die, and I didn't care how or when it happened. I told him I believe that if a person is in that much pain, it's selfish for people to want them to stay, but if he chose to live, then he has to start living differently and he can't half-ass it. It's weird, but him doing this didn't affect me this time. The only feeling I have about it is I'm tired of stuff like this happening, and I kind of wish he was successful.